In this video, I want to teach you a very simple trick you can use to determine the limiting reagent of any chemical reaction. For example, if we have this chemical reaction, and let's say this is the balanced chemical reaction, and let's say we have 3 moles of this reactant and we have 10 moles of this reactant. We know these molecules are going to react to form these products. However, we know due to the stoichiometry and due to the number of moles we have of each reactant, we know they're going to react, and one of these reactants are going to run out before the other. So you may wonder, which of these reactants are going to run out first? Are we going to run out of this reactant, or are we going to run out of this reactant? So this may seem like a very tricky question that requires a lot of complex thinking, but I have a super simple trick that requires no thinking. So in order to solve this, all you have to do is use this very simple equation. All you have to do is take the number of moles of the reactant you're interested in and divide it by the coefficient in the balanced chemical reaction. And you do that for both reactants. For example, we know we have 3 moles of this reactant, and we know we have a coefficient of 1 in the balanced chemical reaction. So all you do is take the number of moles divided by the coefficient in the balanced chemical reaction, and that will give you a number. And you do that for both reactants. For this reactant, we know we have 10 moles, and we know we have a coefficient of 5 in the balanced chemical reaction. So take the number of moles divided by the coefficient in the balanced chemical reaction, that gives you 2. And now all you do is compare these two numbers. And we know 2 is less than 3, so we know this is going to be the limiting reagent. This is going to run out first. We have a lower number, so this is going to run out first. So now we know if we have 3 moles of this reactant and 10 moles of this reactant and they react, we know they're going to react forming products. And we know this oxygen is going to run out first. It's going to be the limiting reagent. As these two reactants react, we're going to run out of oxygen, and we're going to have some leftover of this reactant by the time we finish this chemical reaction. So now we know oxygen will be the limiting reagent, and it's just that simple. Let's try another example. Let's say we have 5 moles of oxygen, and let's say we have 8 moles of carbon monoxide. And let's say we have this balanced chemical reaction. If these two reactants react, which will be the limiting reagent? Which of these reactants are going to run out first? Well, we know the way we determine this is by using this super simple equation. We take the number of moles of the reactant we're interested in, divided by the coefficient in the balanced chemical reaction, and you'll get a fraction. And then you just compare those two fractions for both of the reactants. So if we did this, we would see for oxygen, we have 5 moles of oxygen, and we have a coefficient of 1 in the balanced chemical reaction, so we would get a fraction of 5 over 1, so that gives us 5. For this carbon monoxide, we have 8 moles of carbon monoxide, and we have a coefficient of 2 in the balanced chemical reaction, so that gives us a fraction of 8 over 2. So now we would just compare these two numbers, 5 and 4, and we see 4 is lower than 5. So therefore, we know this carbon monoxide will be the limiting reagent. It has a smaller number, a smaller fraction, so it's going to run out first. It's going to be the limiting reagent. And it's really just that simple. So now we know if we have 5 moles of oxygen and 8 moles of carbon monoxide, we know they're going to react. And we know this carbon monoxide will run out first because it's the limiting reagent. So it's literally just that simple. So memorize this equation. Moles divided by the coefficient in the balanced chemical reaction. Compare those two fractions. Whichever has a smaller fraction is the limiting reagent.